Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As we continue with the next chapter of our curriculum, which is a verb sentence, the imperative, which is known as the command, the fi'l amr, and the prohibition, which is the fi'l nahi. So commanding and forbidding forms are constructed from the present/future tense fi'l forms. Commanding and forbidding forms only connected to second person pronouns. So you can't command or forbid yourself, which is the first person, nor can you command and forbid someone who is absent, which is the third person. So meaning it's only connected to the second person, meaning you. So someone who's present and someone else, so you say you can command someone in that from that point of view, or forbid them. So if we start with forbidding, so the steps in constructing a forbidding form. So first we choose the present tense second person form. So we have to choose the correct one. So the pronoun matches with the one being forbidden. So for example, if you're forbidding one person, then you have to choose the you, which is for singular. Or if you're forbidding two people, then you choose the both of you pronoun. Or plural, like all of you, then you have to choose that one. And also it depends on the masculine and feminine as well. Then you put the fi'l in the lightest form. So if you remember from the last chapter, we discussed the light and lightest forms. So you, in this case, when we're constructing a forbidding form, you have to put the fi'l in the lightest form. So if it's an any combination with a noon on it, we just take the noon off. That puts it in the lightest form. Or if it has no any combination, then the last letter, which in the original form is Dhamma, we just turn that into a sukoon, and that becomes the lightest form. And then the third step is that we add a lam in front of the fi'l. Lam means no, or it's it's part of forbidding. So here is the forbidding chart with the example of yaf'alu, and remember only the second person is needed. So we're only going to look at the pronouns that are to do with the second person, meaning you, because you can't forbid or command an absent person or yourself. So it's only the second person. So we start with anta, which means you, masculine. So in each case we put the original pronoun as per usual. Then we put the original fi'l, then the lightest fi'l, and then the forbidding form underneath. So you can see the step-by-step process of how it's constructed. So the original anta would be taf'alu, which means you do. Then we have to, once we've chosen that that's the pronoun we want, so that we were trying to forbid a single masculine person, so therefore it's anta, that's the correct one, taf'alu. Then we make that into the lightest form. Remember the dhamma just takes a sukoon, so it becomes taf'al. And then the third step is that we put the lam in front of the fi'l, so it becomes la taf'al. And so this meaning is you, meaning masculine, you man, don't do. Because we're forbidding, so don't do. Because taf'alu means you do, or you are doing. So the forbidding would be you don't do. You man or masculine don't do. And so antuma, the original is taf'alani. So if you want to turn that into the lightest form first, then because it's an any combination of an alif noon, that we just take the noon away, so it becomes taf'ala, and then we add the lam at the start, so it becomes la taf'ala, which means you, both of you men, don't do. And then antum, which means all of you. The original is taf'aluna, and the lightest version, because it's an any combination with wa and noon, we just take the noon off, so it becomes taf'alu is the lightest version. And then if you want the third step, the next step to make it a forbidding form is we put a lam in front of it, so it becomes la taf'alu, which means all of you don't do, because we're forbidding. And then the next is anti, which is when we're forbidding a female, a single female. So it's taf'alina, which is the original, which means you woman did or do. And the lightest version, because it's any combination of ya and noon, that we just take the noon off, the original version, because then it becomes taf'ali. And then because we're forbidding, we put the la in front of it, so it becomes la taf'ali, which means you woman don't do. And then antuma is the same as the antuma for the masculine. So the taf'alani is the original. Because it's any combination alif noon, then we just take the noon off to make it lighter, so it becomes taf'ala. And then we add a la at the start to make the forbidding form. So it's la taf'ala, which means you two women don't do. And then antunna, the original is taf'alna. And remember, with hunna and antunna, when we turn it into light version or in the lightest version, it doesn't change. The normal version is the same. So meaning the normal version is tafalna, the light version will still be tafalna, and the lightest version will still be tafalna. It doesn't change. But then what we do is, because we want forbidding, we put the la in front of it, so it becomes la tafalna, which means all of you women don't do. And just to a note, to recognize the forbidding form, look for the present tense in the lightest form with the la in front of it. And sometimes this is determined through context as well. So just to discuss the difference between negation versus forbidding. So negation can use la also, but the present future tense will not be in the lightest form. The normal form is used in negation. Whereas when you're forbidding, the present tense must be in the lightest form. So we've got some examples here. So if we're talking about forbidding form, so we said la taf'alhu. So you, meaning man, don't do it. And if you notice, the present tense is in the lightest form because it's taf'al. Because the normal version is taf'alu, and the light version, we replace it with a fatha, is taf'ala, and the lightest version is taf'al. So because this is the lightest version with the la in front of it, so we know that this is actually forbidding. So the meaning would be, you man, don't do it. But whereas negation is different, because here we have the la again, but the present tense fi'l will stay in the normal form. So here the example is la taf'aluhu, you are not doing it. So that's a negation, you are not doing it. So it's not a forbidding, you're not saying you don't do it, but you're just saying you are not doing it. So it's a statement rather than forbidding. So if we notice, the present tense is in normal form, which is tafalu. So no, this could also mean she is not doing it, because if you remember from the present tense chart, tafalu is for hiya version, which means she, as well as you. So the difference between the two, so whether this means you are not doing it or she is not doing it, is determined by context. So when we look at the whole sentence, then we can determine which one it is. So, and the next thing is direct and indirect forbidding. So indirect forbidding is to someone who is absent. So means the meaning would be they should not do it. So it's not, you're not, direct forbidding is when you say you don't do it. But indirect forbidding is when you say they should not do it. So it's the same steps as direct forbidding. So the present tense needs to be in the lightest form, and then you add a la in front of the fi'l. But indirect forbidding can have an outside doer as well, only when the fi'l huwa and hiya version is used. So if you remember, that's one of the rules of the outside doer, that it has to be in either the huwa or the hiya version. So here's just a chart for indirect forbidding using yaf'alu. So the third person, we used it third person, which is the absent person, so someone who's far away. So if you look at the first one, the singular masculine, which is huwa, so the normal version is yaf'alu, and then the lightest, if you remember, that we changed the dhamma at the end to a sukoon, so it becomes yaf'al. And then for indirect forbidding, we just put a la in front of it, so it becomes la yaf'al, which means he should not do. It doesn't mean you don't do, because that's direct forbidding, and that's only for you, not for third person. So it's for second person only. Whereas this is indirect forbidding, which is for third person. So Then huma yaf'alani, so to make it light as first, we remove the noon, so it becomes yaf'ala, and then add the la at the start, becomes la yaf'ala, so both of them should not do. So it's indirect forbidding. So hum yaf'aluna, it's got a va and a noon at the end, any combination to make it lightest, remove the noon, so yaf'alu, then add the lam, yaf'alu, they should not do. And then the hiya version, which means she, feminine, so taf'alu is the normal, and then to turn the sukoon into the dhamma, on the lam, into a sukoon to make it taf'al, that's the lightest version, and then add the lam in front to make la taf'ala, la taf'al, which means she should not do. And then the huma is taf'alani, the ending combination alif and noon, to make it lightest, remove the noon, so it becomes taf'ala, add the lam at the start, so it becomes la taf'ala, which means both of them, women, should not do. And then hunna, if you remember the rules for hunna and antunna, that whether it's light or lightest version, it doesn't change. So normal version is yaf'alna, the lightest version is still yaf'alna, then you just put the lam in front, becomes la yaf'alna, which means they, meaning women, all of those women, women should not do. Just to note that the hiya version of indirect forbidding is the same as the anta version of the direct forbidding. So the two I differentiated through context and meaning. So we move on to commanding. So the steps in constructing a commanding form. So the first thing is we choose the present tense second person form. So the pronoun that matches whoever we're trying to command. So if we're commanding a single masculine, then it's the one which is anta. If it's two people, or if we're forbidding a group of people, whether it's masculine or feminine, so we have to choose the right one, the right form, the right present tense form. Then the second thing is we put the fi'l in the lightest form. And then the third thing is that we remove the ta, which is the first letter of the fi'l. So the first letter of the fi'l will have a ta on it, and then we remove that ta. And then if the first letter, after removing the ta, has any harakat except sukoon, then the construction is complete. So meaning, after we remove that first letter ta, and then the new first letter, if it has any harakat except sukoon, then it's done. We've finished, the command is complete. But if that first letter, after removing the ta, has a sukoon on it, then we need to add an alif to the start. And the harakat on the alif, it depends on a few things. So if the second to last letter on the fi'l in the huwa version, so the original huwa version, has a dhamma on it, then the alif gets a dhamma too. But if the second to last letter of the fi'l in the huwa version has fatha on it, or kasra on it, then the alif gets a kasra. The only exception is what we say is the afala, which is family 4 pattern, which gets a fatha on the alif always in the command form. And this is something that we'll discuss later, that what do we mean by family 4. So just we'll show you in the table here. So the commanding chart using yaf'alu. So we only need the second person, because you can only command someone who's present. So you can't command yourself or someone who's absent. So it's only second person. So now the harakat on the second to last letter in the huwa version is fatha. So if you look at yaf'alu, which is the huwa version, so if we look at the second to last letter, it's fatha. So therefore, if we add the extra alif, then the alif will take a kasra. And then we just explained further that if it was a kasra, the second to last letter, so let's say it was yaf'ilu, so the ain, which is the second to last letter, let's say it had a kasra on it, then the extra alif that we would add will have a kasra. But if the second to last letter, the ain, had the dhamma on it, so let's say it was yaf'ulu, then the extra alif would get a dhamma on it. So remember, the second to last letter in the huwa version If it has a fatha on it or a kasra on it, then the extra alif gets a kasra. If it has a dhamma on it, that second to last letter in the huwa version, if it has a dhamma on it, then the extra alif gets a dhamma. But in this case, the example that we're using, the second to last letter has a fatha. So therefore our extra alif will have a kasra. And just to show it, this table makes it a little bit clearer what we mean. So if we start with the anta, which means you masculine. So the original version is taf'alu. Then first we make it in the lightest form. So it's got a dhamma at the end. So we turn that into a sukoon. So it becomes taf'al. Then the next step, if you remember, is that the ta at the start of the fi'l, we remove it. Now the new first letter, which is the fa, it has a sukoon on it. So therefore we have to add an alif. If it had any other harakat, so if that fa had a fatha, a kasra, or a dhamma, then we don't have to do anything, we're done. But because that after removing the ta, the new first letter, which is the fa, if you look at the lightest form, has a sukoon on it, so therefore we have to add a alif. And therefore, and because the second to last letter in the huwa version is fatha, therefore the extra alif will take a kasra, so it becomes if'al, which means you man do. So you're commanding. So the antuma, so the original version is taf'alani. To turn it into the lightest version, because it's any combination of alif with noon, so we remove the noon, so it becomes taf'ala. And the next step is we remove the ta on taf'ala, but because the fa, the new first letter, has a sukoon on it, then we have to add an alif. And like I said, because the second to last letter in the huwa version is fatha, then the alif takes a kasra, so it becomes if'ala, which means you too do. And then taf'aluna is the antum version, and again because it's an ending combination, we remove the noon to make it lighter, taf'alu. Then we remove the ta, the first letter after the ta. Once the ta has been removed, which is the fa, has a sukoon, so we put an alif on it, and the alif will take a kasra because the second to last letter in the huwa version has a fatha, so the alif will take a kasra, becomes if'alu, which means all of you do, and the all of you can include a group of men and women. And then the anti, which means you, feminine. So the original is taf'alina, is ya and noon any combination. So to make it lightest, we remove the noon, so it becomes taf'ali. Then when we remove the ta at the start, the new first letter, which is fa, has a sukoon on it, so we add the alif. And like we said, the second to last letter in the huwa version has fatha, so therefore the alif will take a kasra, so it becomes if'ali, which means you woman do. And then antuma is the same as the antuma that we mentioned before for the masculine version. So taf'alani is the original, get rid of the noon. For the lightest version, taf'ala, get rid of the ta, add the alif with the kasra, becomes if'ala, you two women do. And then antunna, if you remember the rule for hunna and antunna, light or lightest version is still the same as the normal version. So taf'alna is the normal version, the lightest version is still taf'alna. Then we remove the ta. Because the new first letter fa has a sukoon on it, we put an alif at the start. And because the second to last letter in the huwa version has a fatha, then the alif will take a kasra, then it becomes if'alna, which means all of you women do. And we have another example here, but this time what we did, we're using using dhamma on the extra alif. So this would be unsur, which means you man help. So the second to last letter in the huwa version, which is yansuru, is dhamma, so therefore the extra alif gets a dhamma too. That's why it's unsur, it's not insur, it's unsur. And these are this table has the anta, so it's explained step by step. So meaning the normal version for anta would be tansuru, The lightest version, we change the sukoon into the dhamma on the ra into a sukoon, so it becomes tansur. Then we drop the ta, remove the ta at the beginning of the fi'l. But because the new first letter, the noon, has a sukoon on it, therefore we have to add an alif. And the original huwa version, the second to last letter, which is the sad, has a dhamma on it, so therefore the alif will take a dhamma, so it will become sur, which means you man, help. So now we discuss something called noon of emphasis, which is called noon tawkid. So the noon, this noon attaches to the end of a present tense to emphasize the action, and it usually translates in the future tense. So the noon of emphasis often comes with what we call a la tawkid, which is the letter la at the beginning of the fi'l also shows emphasis or further emphasis. So there's two levels of noon emphasis. The light noon emphasis. So this is when one noon is added, and this occurs twice in the Holy Quran. And there's a heavy noon emphasis, and this is where two noons are added, and this occurs many times in the Quran. So we'll just give an example of the heavy noon emphasis chart using yaf'alu. So this is the heavy noon version where two noons are added at the end. So if we take a look at this chart, we start from huwa. So the normal version is yaf'alu, which means he does. But if we want to make a heavy noon emphasis, so we're going to add two noons to the end, it becomes yaf'alanna. And this means he is absolutely doing this. So it's a double emphasis. So he is absolutely doing this, or doing. And then the huma is yaf'alani, which is a normal version. So if you want to add a heavy noon emphasis, then it becomes yaf'alani. So which means both of them are absolutely doing. And then hum, then we have yaf'aluna, which is the original, and then the heavy noon emphasis would be yaf'alunna, which means they are absolutely doing. And it's highlighted in yellow. In the original version, if you see that we highlighted the wa with the sukoon on it in yellow, because that's a wa, then when you add the noon, it becomes the lam takes a dhamma. That's why it's yaf'alunna. Because if you notice, that's the difference between the hum version is yaf'alunna and the huwa version is yaf'alanna. So meaning the hum version, the lam takes a dhamma, but in the huwa version, the lam takes a fatha. So that's how you can tell the difference between huwa and hum. So hum would always take a dhamma on the lam, on the second on the third root letter. So the first root letter is the fa, the second root letter is the ain, and the third root letter is the lam. And that's the original word, fa'ala. So everything else is just added extra to it. So in the hum version, the third root letter lam has a dhamma on it, but whereas in the huwa version, the third root letter lam has a fatha on it. So that's how you tell the difference between hum and huwa. And then the hiya, the original is taf'alu. The heavy noon emphasis version, we say it's taf'alanna, which means she is absolutely doing. And again, you notice that the third root letter lam has a fatha on it. So that indicates that we're talking about a single person, which is she. And then huma taf'alani, heavy emphasis of noon will be taf'alani. So both of them, women are absolutely doing. And then hunna, it's yaf'alna, is the normal version. Then if we want to make it a heavy noon emphasis, it will be yaf'alnani, which means they are absolutely doing. And here then we have anta, which means you, masculine. Taf'alu is the original version, so when you want to make a heavy noon emphasis, then it becomes taf'alanna. So again, the third root letter lam has a fatha on it, which emphasizes that, or it shows that it's single. We're talking about a single person. So antuma is taf'alani, And then again, the heavy noon emphasis will be taf'alani, which means you two are absolutely doing. And then antum, which means you all, which includes masculine and feminine. So the original is taf'aluna, and the noon emphasis, heavy emphasis, would be taf'alunna. All of you are absolutely doing. And then you notice the highlighted wow with the sukoon on it, because it represents you all, which is plural. Then if you come down to the heavy noon emphasis, the third rule alam has a dhamma on it, and that's what differentiate. That's how you know that it's talking about antum, because it's taf'alunna with the dhamma. Whereas anta version, which is single masculine, will be taf'alanna. The third rule alam takes a fatha. And then anti, which means you feminine, so taf'alina is the original. Then heavy emphasis will be taf'alinna. You notice that the ya has been dropped. So the ya and noon combination, the ya has been dropped. So taf'alinna. And then antum version, again, is taf'alani is the normal version. The heavy noon emphasis is taf'alani, which is you two are absolutely doing. And then antunna, the normal version is taf'alna, and the heavy noon emphasis will be taf'alnani. So all of you women are absolutely doing. And then the ana version, the original is afalu. Then if you want to put the heavy noon emphasis, is af'alanna, and you notice that the third rule alam has a fatha on it, which indicates single. And then nahnu, naf'alu, again it's heavy, noon emphasis will be naf'alanna. So the third rule alam has a fatha on it, which means we are absolutely doing. And this is what I discussed earlier. So when the original fi'l form has a wa sukoon at the end, it is replaced with a dhamma, which only occurs in the antum and hum versions. And when the original fi'l has dhamma at the end, it is placed with fatha. And now the direct forbidding can be emphasized with the light or heavy noon emphasis as well, by simply adding the noon to the direct forbidding version as shown in the above table. So as per usual, at the end of every chapter, we always advise that go over the vocabulary list chapter at the end of this curriculum. Ideally, at the end of every session, this curriculum is studied, so that your Arabic grammar knowledge increases with your vocab knowledge, inshallah.